party people, what is up? Welcome back to my channel. Today we are getting February in my Project Life album. We are dusting off that month. We are getting it documented. And for this one, I decided to use the Studio Calico Flyaway documenter kit, which is the documenter kit for March. And I decided to keep it super low-key and only use that kit for this process. So when I did this last month, I had the Studio Calico kit, but then I also pulled out a bunch of other stamp sets, and I pulled out like a bunch of other things, and I think I made the process a little bit too complicated for me. And the point of doing Project Life monthly is to uncomplicate the process, right? So I decided to limit myself to just a kit, and you'll see I get all the way to the end of the video before I have to pull out something that's not in the kit. So even if you're doing Project Life monthly and you're worried that, you know, there might not be enough, the Studio Calico documenter kits are wonderful. And after the end of this video, I still have a bunch of cards and other stuff that if I wanted to do another project, I could. But yeah, I really killed this documenter kit in this. So I started with, if you saw my January Project Life process or my photos, you're probably already familiar with my approach to it. But I am mixing a bunch of different inserts and just telling monthly stories in this album. So I have a few pictures that I printed 8.5 by 11. And then I'm also working off of the back of a 6 by 8 insert that I made earlier in the month. So that first photo you saw, that big picture of my big face, was documenting that in February we did the Pieces of Us challenge with Ali Edwards. So that was one of the outtakes from the full face photo, but I really liked it, and so I just printed it huge. I did a little bit of journaling directly on the photo about how we did the Pieces of Us challenge in the month of February, and then I used 2 of those plastic butterflies from the kit, as well as some of those ribbon stickers. I need like 8 sheets of those ribbon stickers that were in this kit. I used pretty much all of them. By the end of this project, I think I had like 4 of them left. But they're kind of like frayed at the edge, so they look like they were ripped tape, and some of them were just decorative and some of them had phrases, but they're so good. I love them so much. But now I'm working on my other 2 big photos. So that photo of the house that you see I printed 8.5 by 11 is my mother-in-law's house. And then I also have a picture of a sunrise that I printed 6 3/4 by 8 1/4, and this is going on the back side of my 6 by 8 insert. So I just used a little bit of vellum to make a pocket to hold my journaling. I hand wrote all my journaling for this. Part of what makes this process streamlined for me is not having to stop and figuring out how to print on journaling cards, how to type on journaling cards. So I hand wrote all my journaling. If I was doing like, 6 by 8 spreads, I would probably type my journaling just because I had time to think about it more. But when it comes to doing this project, which is like a overview of my month, I'm okay with handwriting it. And the cards have like prompts, so it's kind of easier to like gear how you're going to tell your story anyway. So I just made a pocket to hold the journaling that I did, added a strip of that washi, then added 2 more of those ribbon stickers on that pocket. And then on the other side, I did the same thing. I used a little bit of vellum. I used 1/8 inch score tape to create a pocket. And you can't even see the tape through the vellum. It works out perfectly. And then this side, I'm using the washi tape again, and I'm using the washi tape as a place to anchor that butterfly. So I didn't want to actually put any adhesive through those butterflies just because they're transparent, right? And you're going to see any adhesive you use. I find that the best way to work with acetate pieces like this is to go with a staple. Staples are my favorite way to attach pieces like this, and the Tim Holtz Tiny Attacher has those super tiny, super darling staples, so they work really well. And then I'm stamping on a label. These labels were also part of the kits, and I love the Studio Calico label stickers because they're paper. They're not like glossy cardstock where if you stamp on them, they'll smear and you have to worry about them drying. They're just paper, so they dry instantly. And so this stamp says mindset is everything, and I stamped it, attached it directly to my butterfly, checked it with my T-square to make sure that it was straight, and that is this pocket pretty much done. I go ahead and I use my ATG to attach my 2 photos back to back, and I do make a little bit of a mistake with these at the end, and I'll tell you what the mistake was. I'll tell you what the mistake was at the end. I'll show you what I did wrong. But I just attach my photos back to back, making sure that they line up, and then I do the same thing with my 6 by 8 photos. So I pull out, same thing, pull out the photos. The insert that I'm using, you guys will have already seen that process. That's the process I did with the April April stories by the month. Yeah, the April stories by the month. And I actually used the April stories by the month kit to tell a story for my February project life. So you can make these products work for you. And here on the back side, that insert I had made was a full photo. And then on the other side was a 4x6 pocket with those 2x2s. And at the time I was like, I have no idea what I'm going to do on the back side, but I wanted to document the story the way I did. And I figured future Tashi would figure out how to fill in that space, and future Tashi did figure out how to fill in that space. So I printed out a 4x6 photo. I'm just doing some stamping directly on the photo. The stamp set in this kit was designed by Liz Tamanaha of Paisley Press, and I love her stamps because they tend to have her handwriting. So this stamp set had her handwriting in the word thrive and embrace, and then they tended to just be really clean lines and designs. So it's really my favorite. She's one of my favorite stamp designers. So whenever I get a kit that has a stamp set designed by her, I know it's going to be a good kit. So I'm just layering 2 stamps. One says progress, not perfection. And I forget what the one underneath this says, but I'm just layering 2 stamps in the corner of that photo. It's just me hanging out at work drinking coffee. And then I cut a 4x6 card down to the 2x2 squares, which I don't know why I didn't think about it the other time. Like, I totally have just done this. I just took a 4x6 pattern card, cut it down to 2x2 squares. I did a tiny bit of journaling on one of those label stickers about being at work and drinking coffee. Like, this isn't like a groundbreaking story. It was just a photo I took that I wanted to document. I stick that in the pocket, and then I add the other 2x2 squares. And now the back side of this is filled up. And it didn't require me to have a bunch of little 2x2 photos. Like, I just used a journaling card. You guys, don't be afraid to like cut up your supplies and make them work for you. And I don't know why at the time I was freaking out. I was like, what am I going to do when it's time to fill the backside of this when I have a ton of pattern cards that I literally could have just cut up? And the good thing about this being just a pattern is I didn't have to make sure that the orientation of the card after I cut it up was the same in the pockets. If you cut up one that had like font or whatever, then as you're reassembling it in the pocket on the back, then you have to be mindful so that you can still read it. But because this was just a graphic, like, I kind of mixed it up on purpose so that it's not the same orientation. I just think that looks more interesting in the long run. So I'm glad I did that. So now I'm working on the actual bookends of my spread. So I've done all my little inserts, and now I'm doing the bookends. And I think this is going to be my approach to Project Life. I'm going to do like 2 pocket pages on the outside and then have all my random inserts on the inside. And maybe some months there won't be as many inserts. Last month I had, I think, the same amount of inserts as I had this month, if I'm not mistaken. I don't remember. But maybe there won't be any inserts. Like this month, where I'm probably going to be documenting a lot of the coronavirus panic and the pandemic. There might be a lot more stories to tell, but some months it might be pretty low-key and it'll just be the 2 pocket pages. But the point of this project is just to get an overview of my month, right? There's no like rhyme or reason or formula to how I'm doing it. I am just I'm keeping it loose. I'm keeping it organic. I'm probably going to use the Studio Calico kits because they're super good. And I'm just going to document my month. So on this side, I have a bunch of photos from one particular weekend where my husband and I went to visit my mother-in-law, and I've already documented this in my 6x12 story album, but it happened in February, right? So it belongs in Project Life. And yes, my stories might get repetitive, but depending on which album I pick up, I'm going to get a different lens. So the story that I told in my 6x12 album was an in-depth story about my husband and his mother. And this here, in my Project Life album, I'm just documenting that this happened. So there's a whole lot less words on this one that there were on the last one. So I'm just getting a little overview of what February looked like, and then if I wanted to go in depth into that story, then I can go into my story album. And that is how I'm juggling and managing things. And yes, sometimes the photos will be repeated, but depending on the lens and the words you're looking for, you get a completely different story that you're telling at the time. So now I'm just doing the same thing. I'm stamping on some of those labels. There's a picture of my mother-in-law in the top corner. There's a picture. I took so many pictures of my mother-in-law's cat when we went upstate that week. I have a cat thing, and she has the biggest, fluffiest cat in the world. I'm convinced that cat is part Norwegian forest cat, but he was a shelter cat that they adopted, so they don't know what breed he is. I'm convinced he's Norwegian forest cat. He's like 14 pounds. He's the biggest, most fluffiest cat in the world, and I love him. So I have so many photos of Oliver. I just picked this one where he was kind of hanging out under the couch and like peeking at me. And then the other photos I have a photo of my husband and I while we were on the bus going upstate. And then I took a selfie in the bathroom because I am a sucker for bathroom selfies. I did some journaling on that rainbow card, and that was pretty much it. I think I added a butterfly also with a staple to the photo of me sitting on the couch pretending to study for my NCLEX. I do a lot of pretending to study for my NCLEX these days, just because it's hard to get back in the swing of things after I've been out of school for so long. So yeah, there's lots of photos of me pretending to study for my NCLEX everywhere, and I just added a butterfly to it, and like I said, hand wrote my journaling about that weekend. And now I'm working on the opposite side. So on this side, I have a photo of Noah, I have a photo of Minerva, I have a photo of Japanese Kit Kats, and then a photo of Joshua and a photo of my nursing school buddies because we actually hung out in February. And I just stamped the same stamp on top because it said growth spurt. So I'm stamping a photo of Noah because he is much bigger than the last time I had pictures of him. And if you see this kid now, he's huge. He's like a monster. He's growing so fast. It's crazy how fast babies grow and change. And then I just stamped the same thing on Minnie because Minerva used to be able to fit in all these boxes, and now she's too big. And I don't think she understands that she's too big for the boxes. She still tries to fit in the boxes anyway. I think she's more of a if she fits, she sits. So yeah, that's my crazy cat. And now I stamped Bloom and Grow on a bit of vellum because I used vellum pockets and I wanted to repeat the texture. I have this thing, right, where if I introduce a texture somewhere, I have to keep repeating it. So I just stamped it, laid it over a big butterfly, stapled that butterfly to the journaling card, and then that's the card embellished. So I'm trying to do a mix of embellishing, but also being like mindful about my embellishments. Like I don't like empty cards, so if it's just a photo, I'm like stamping on a photo or adding, like that's why I love those ribbon stickers so much, right? Because they're just a quick and easy embellishment to add to photos. So I did my journaling handwritten here, and I wrote about how February meant change. And I think that's a recurring theme for me this year. I did a lot of journaling in January about how January meant change, and then I got to February and things were still changing, and I'm hoping that I eventually get to the part of my life where things stop changing as much and as fast and things start settling. So I just wrote a little bit about how February meant change, and then I stamped lessons learned directly on that card. And now I'm adding more of those ribbon stickers. I love these. I know I've said this like 5 times in this video, but these stickers are so good, you guys. And if Studio Calico sells them separately, I'm probably going to have to buy like 3 sheets of them just to have them because they're so good. Or maybe they'll do them in different themes and different color schemes because that would be great. But do you see how many of them I've used up? Like I'm literally killing this sticker sheet on this spread. And the good thing about them is some of them are patterned, but some of them have sentiments. So you don't have to do any additional embellishing because the embellishing is done for you with that sticker. So then for this card that just says good vibes all the time, I added a little bit of washi because I realized that I didn't use the washi anywhere else besides on those 2 inserts where I put it on the vellum pocket. So I added a little bit of washi, I did some stamping, and it says yes, and then a down arrow, and then change, because I did some journaling about change. Stamped that on a label, added that over the washi, and that is it. Like that pretty much completed how I embellished this side of the card. So now all that's left to do is work on my title card. Like this, I feel like this month went by really quickly because I learned a few things from the way I did it last month, like simplifying my process and not using a million embellishments. So for my title card, I added some washi again, and then I used the stickers that came in the kit, which were these fun, like beige colored, to spell out Feb for February. I stapled down 2 more of the butterflies, and this is the time where I reach for something that's not in the kit because I needed a number and I didn't want to stamp. So I figured the easiest way to add the number, since I didn't want to actually do any stamping, was just to add stickers. So I reached into my stash for some, I think they're from Kelly Perky. I think they were from an old Kelly Perky kit. I grabbed some, they're kind of mustard colored stickers to spell out the 2020, just to signify this is February 2020. And I put them on a label, just so they're not directly on the background. I think by putting them on the label, they pop a little bit more. I don't know if they do, but this is what I tell myself. So by putting them on a label, I think they pop a little bit more. So I just use this mustard stickers to spell out 2020 so that my title is February 2020. And then, you know, everything after it is February. And I'm so used to making like 4x6 title cards that doing these 3x4 title cards in this album is a really nice change. And I'm really enjoying it. Like this 9x12 is so fun and so fresh. I'm so glad that I switched to a smaller size and switched to monthly project life. We will see if I make it the whole year. I've gotten 2 months down, so we'll see if I make it the whole year, but I'm really enjoying how this is going and having fun with this process. So the only thing left for me to do is punch some holes using my power punch in my inserts, pop them in the album, and that's done. So I'm going to stop talking now because we're going to switch back to voiceover so you can see how everything looks in my album. But I hope you enjoyed the process, you guys. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. And you'll get to see in a second how things look in my album and how things flip through and how all the inserts and everything interact together. And I really, really like how February shaped up in this book. All right, friends, so I am done with February in my monthly project life. So here is how January shaped up. I had the inserts and I loved the different sizes. So I decided to do the same thing for February. So I have my page full of cards. I have this big photo documenting that I did the Pieces of Us challenge. I realized after I did this that I punched the holes on the wrong side because I really wanted this photo of my mother-in-law's house to be on this side because this is where all the pictures of that weekend are. But I mean, in the bigger scheme of things, it doesn't matter. But next time I'll just pay more attention where I punch the holes because now I have these two like kind of scenery pictures next to each other, which actually kind of works because these both have the vellum. So we're going to say I did this on purpose, even though that wasn't my intention, but these pages do kind of match because they both have the vellum with the washi tape. So let's say I did that on purpose. So then I have this. And this is the insert I made. If you want to see the process, this process video is already up on my channel. And then here is how the last of it looks. So that's February in the books, you guys. I am loving doing monthly project life. I like that I can just sit down one day, knock out the whole month. I don't feel like I'm, forced to come back to this week after week. And I like the pocket pages when it's monthly. So it's working for me. So I hope you enjoyed the video, you guys. I hope you enjoyed the process. Please like, comment, and subscribe if you're so inclined. Let me know what you think of this page and if you are doing monthly project life. And I'll see you the next time. So next time, keep it crafty and have the best day, and I'll see you around. Bye!